Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Are you ready? Hey everybody, it's Jeff. Here, tomorrow's Friday, so we're coming to the end here of the weekend, up to the weekend. So, really hot yesterday. Very hot yesterday. It was like almost touching 100 degrees, and I'll tell you, it was murder here for for all of us. I got a guy that just moved into that vacant apartment next door. He's from Texas, and he didn't have no air conditioner because he just got in there. I can't imagine. He must have been sweating in there like you wouldn't believe. Yeah, he was in there today. He hadn't even moved in all the way yet, so he still had stuff to bring in there. So he didn't do anything yesterday because it was too damn hot. But yeah. But yeah, it was bad. It was bad. But it's supposed to be nice and cool. It's cool now. It's like, what's the temperature here? It's 64 right now outside. So that's like a 30-degree drop from where it was. And then, of course, the weekend is supposed to be cool and rainy, too. So I guess we're going to be happy there, at least for a while anyway, until we get tired of that and want the sun back out. But the sun's out right now. It wasn't most of the day. It was kind of overcast, but you know, we're not complaining with the cool weather. But I imagine, because they said it was a heat wave, so I imagine other states had gone through the same shit, only worse probably, because we're way up north, and a lot of these places are, you know, further south. So I got a video here from Ben Meiselas, Ben Meiselas. And he's got interesting things he wants to talk about. So let's run over there, and then we'll discuss stuff hereafter.
All hell broke loose in the House of Representatives and in the Senate as the hearings that were being held by the MAGA Republicans backfired in their face. So they had this witness, Alex Nowrasteh. He's a libertarian at the Cato Institute. And I don't know if the MAGA Republicans in the House thought this guy was going to be a favorable witness to them, but he started talking about how he goes, look, I think we should all be defending Melania Trump here because let's face it, I understand that she probably got here through immigration means that do not meet the smell test, but she's got to be around Donald Trump, and not a lot of people can do that. So maybe she should get an award for that. Maybe you have to give her an Einstein visa for being able to tolerate the stench of the orange Mussolini. Watch this guy play this clip.
But I also want to defend Melania real quick. Not everybody could marry Donald Trump, and I think that's quite an achievement. So I think she deserves credit for that. Nobody up here could have done it.
You sure right. I couldn't do it. But anyway.
So good right here. And then Democratic Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett sees that Nowrasteh is going to be, I think, a pretty favorable witness here. So I want you to watch as she then basically takes what he says, and then she's like, okay, we should talk about Melania and her Einstein visa. Yeah, she was a model, but what type of model was she really when she met Donald Trump at the Kit Kat Club in New York City, which was run by a guy who would link wealthy Manhattan business people to, quote, models from Eastern Europe. Models. Here, play this clip.
And since we're talking about integrity, I'm confused as to why my Republican colleagues aren't talking about the lack of integrity when it comes to the president's family's visas. Let me remind y'all that Melania, the first lady, a model, and when I say model, I'm not talking about Tyra Banks, Cindy Crawford, or Naomi Campbell level, applied for and was given an EB-1 visa. And that stands for is an Einstein visa. Now, y'all that don't know, let me tell you how you receive an Einstein visa. You're supposed to have some sort of significant achievement, like being awarded a Nobel Peace Prize or a Pulitzer, being an Olympic medalist, or having other sustained extraordinary abilities and success in sciences, arts, education, business, or athletics. Last time I checked, the First Lady had none of those accolades under her belt. It doesn't take an Einstein to see that the math ain't mathin' here.
Okay. And then the libertarian Alex Nowrasteh was really getting on the nerves of someone like a MAGA Republican Chip Roy. And a guy like a MAGA Republican Chip Roy tries to claim, right, that he's like, he has libertarian views and he's anti-government and anti-establishment. Watch what goes down here. It's unbelievable. Play this clip.
And she's one of dozens, hundreds, thousands of examples of Americans who are dead because of policies that were advocated for by the Biden administration and people parading around as libertarians. Ms. Vaughn.
Parading around as libertarians? What does that mean?
It means exactly what it means.
Out of order.
It's my time, not yours.
That's a personal
It is my time,
and
not yours. I don't have any time to listen to libertarian claptrap.
I know you don't have any time to listen.
That is killing Americans, because that's what you're doing, and you're hiding behind
killing
a brand
Americans?
that is resulting in the death of Americans.
That's a heck of a thing to say to somebody, sir. That is totally false, and I take exception to that.
It's true, and everybody in America knows it.
I have not killed anybody, sir, and that is really exceptional.
Ms. Vaughn, but you go talk to Alexa Nungaray and talk about her daughter no longer being with us.
Beneath you as an individual to say that to somebody,
Ms.
sir.
Vaughn.
And I thought one of the powerful things as we move to the Senate as well is you had Democratic Senator Welch talking to Emil Bove. And Emil Bove is one of the top people at the Justice Department. He was Donald Trump's personal lawyer, and Emil Bove has now been nominated to be on the Third Circuit Court of Appeals, basically one of the top judges in the country. And Emil Bove was the subject of a massive whistleblower letter by another top federal prosecutor who said Emil Bove told all of the prosecutors, F the judges, F them. But use the curse word. F the judges. Don't follow what they say. Do what the regime says. But here's another question where Senator Welch just says, who won the 2020 election? And watch, Emil Bove refuses to answer that question.
Who won the 2020 election for President of the United States?
President Biden was certified as the winner of that election.
So you give the standard answer. You can't say that he won because he got the majority of votes and also got the Electoral College victory?
I think the characterizations that you just made, Senator, are both political, and so I can't address them under the canons, and they're also tied up in ongoing litigation.
Help me understand how it's political to state who got the most votes in any election.
Senator, I'm just trying to be precise. The process by which our country declares the victor in an election is a certification process. President Biden was certified.
Now bring in Democratic Senator Adam Schiff, who then asks the question, cross-examines the crap out of Emil Bove. Did you tell your prosecutors who work for you at the Department of Justice that courts need to go F themselves and you should F what the courts say? Watch this.
Turn to the meeting that Mr. Ravaney, the whistleblower, has written an extensive complaint about. The hearing started with the chairman reading a social media post by the Deputy Attorney General Blanche, who is present today but not under oath, nor is that social media post under oath. So let me ask you, since you are under oath, in the complaint it says, Bove stated that DOJ would need to consider telling the courts, fuck you, and ignoring any such court order. Did you say anything of that kind in the meeting?
Senator, I have no recollection of saying anything of that kind. To the extent I
Wouldn't you recall, Mr. Bove, if you said or suggested during a meeting with Justice Department lawyers that maybe they should consider telling the court, fuck you? It seems to me that would be something you'd remember, unless that's the kind of thing you say frequently.
Well, I've certainly said things encouraging litigators at the department to fight hard for valid positions that we have to take in defense
And
of
have
our
you
clients.
frequently suggested that they say fuck you and ignore court orders? Is that also something you frequently do, such you might not remember doing it on this occasion?
No. And as I explained, I've never directed.
So did you or did you not make those comments during that meeting?
Which comments, Senator?
You really need me to repeat it? Did you suggest, as Mr. Ruvani wrote, that DOJ would need to consider telling the courts fuck you and ignore any such court order?
I did not suggest that there would be any need to consider ignoring court orders. At the point of that meeting, there were no court orders to discuss.
Well, did you suggest telling the courts fuck you in any manner?
I don't recall.
You just don't remember that.
Now that is how it is done right there. Next up, I want to show you Congresswoman Simon. And as a lot of these MAGA Republican witnesses, they start to invoke Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Here's what Congresswoman Simon says. Play this clip.
I want to be clear that 4 out of the 5 of you last year posted on your social media the words of Dr. King. And there are so few folks who actually have studied, who are clear on the theology of freedom of King. Very few of you have read and studied and have sat in Ebenezer Baptist Church. So I would ask you, you keep Dr. King's name out of your mouth. If you, like me and the many scholars who will be watching, studied King, you know that he and the mothers and the fathers of the civil rights movement and of the movement for emancipation not only would be struck by the conversations in this room, but would be shattered by the consequence of lies, of hatred, of abuse of this administration in the name of folks who worked to make this country more.
One of the witnesses was Carrie Lake, who now runs Voices of America, and she's basically trying to gut it from within. Congressmember Stanton is from Arizona. Watch what he says to her. This is perfect. Play this clip.
There's a more fundamental issue I want to address today, and that is character. You see, Ms. Lake, we have both been public figures in Arizona for a long time. I've seen you in action, including your behavior in the last 2 elections. And let me be clear about something. The American people cannot believe a word you say. You ran for governor in Arizona in 2022. You lost fair and square. Instead of conceding, you embarrassed yourself and our state by lying again and again for years, blaming everything under the sun for your loss, except for your own toxic politics. You lie about that election to this very day. You lied about signatures on mail-in ballots not matching those on file. Proven wrong. You lied about ballots being intentionally misprinted and then rejected in Republican areas. Total BS. You lied and said hundreds of thousands of ballots were mishandled. Zero evidence. You claimed fake ballots were snuck into batches before they were counted. Come on. You repeated these lies again and again, and you've said even recently, quote, I am the duly elected governor. They just stole it, unquote. Give me a break. Ms. Lake, your new role requires you to tell the truth. For decades, whenever authoritarians and dictators suppress the people and claim victory in fraudulent elections, Voice of America countered those lies. I can't imagine how people fighting for democracy today and around the world can trust someone who has so shamelessly lied about her own election.
Will the gentleman yield to
Ms.
the question?
Lake, no, I will not.
And he goes on. Let's watch it. Play this clip.
How
Let me
you
one
treat
final
other
question.
people that
The
are being
gentlelady
questioned.
will suspend, please. Go ahead. You
You lost for governor in 2022 to Katie Hobbs. You lost even worse to Ruben Gallego for Senate in 2024. Well, Arizona has another election for governor next year. Will you do us all a favor and run it back and run for governor again? I yield.
The gentlelady,
No more questions.
Can I respond
You may
to some of
respond.
that? Because that was complete insanity. I wish I could yield back the last 5 minutes of my life, actually. And I want to apologize to the people of Arizona that we have somebody who's representing the folks in one of our great parts of the Valley that doesn't care about the integrity of our elections.
And he goes on. Let's watch it, play this clip.
You were formally sanctioned by the court. Ms. Lake, you have been sanctioned twice for providing false information to courts. Isn't that true? Yes or no?
I was brave enough to fight our shoddy elections, and the courts have not caught up.
That was a yes or no. I guess the answer is no. Let me reclaim my time. You have been sanctioned by both the United States District Court and the Arizona Supreme Court for, quote, making false factual statements to the court. And you were sued for defamation by a Republican election official, Stephen Richer. He and his family were subjected to harassment and even death threats because of those lies. You told your supporters, Richer and fellow Republican County Supervisor Bill Gates, that they, quote, sabotaged Election Day. You accused them of deliberately printing the wrong image on ballots to jam tabulators and injecting hundreds of thousands of phony ballots. What a joke.
And then Carrie Lake, as she starts getting more and more defensive, she holds up a photo of her cult leader, Donald Trump, and she's like, look at him. Look at his face. Look at this man. Look at this. Look at him. Do we all see him? How freaking weird is this? Play this clip.
But most of all, what we reviewed was an executive order, March 14th, by the man who's in charge of the executive branch.
I want to know.
His name is Donald Trump.
Do you have a record that you can produce? The chairman said you had a bunch of things with you. Do you have a record of what you reviewed and who you reviewed to?
We reviewed the statute.
Do you have a record? Yes or no?
We have the statute. And
Do
we
you have a
reviewed
record?
the statute. Yeah, we can pull that statute
Or
for
if you have it, not the statute, the record of individuals that you reviewed, interviewed, or talked to before you committed your actions of dismantling.
I talked to a lot of people at the agency.
Do you have a record of that?
You could go back and look at emails.
Do you have a record?
Do you want me to pull emails?
I want you to show the record of what you did, Ms. Lake.
Well, you can
Don't
take a
just
look
give
at
me
it.
something that's not verified. Tell me, show me the record, because that's what I hear oftentimes in the business. You have to have a record. Show me the record that you did, what you did. That's all.
Then you had Pam Bondi, the attorney general. She was being asked questions about Trump's meme coin dinner. And I want you to watch all of the gaslighting here. Let me show it to you here. Play this clip.
This solicitation of investments in his personal product, his meme coin, led to many people who were coming from foreign countries attending that dinner. Don't you think the American people have a right to know? And you said yourself, you're very concerned about foreign influence on our government.
Senator, it is wildly offensive that you would accuse President Trump of not protecting American interest in our country when he is the president that has shut down our borders, unlike Joe Biden. President Trump has done everything to make America safe. And you asked me the question, and keep America safe.
Do you
and
know?
You're trying to play a gotcha question at a budget hearing when you have murders left and right in your state, violent crimes, and we are doing everything we can to help your liberal state, whether you're liberal or not. We're going to do everything we can to help the citizens of your state. And you're trying to avoid that because you're trying to play a gotcha question with the president of the United States, and it's not going to work. We're here to talk about our
Mr.
budget
Chairman.
for public safety.
I do believe that as the leader of the Department of Justice, you should be concerned about foreign influence. There was obviously a lot of foreign influence and individuals who said they were there for that reason.
And then Senator Merkley says, so are you going to recommend any ethics guidelines to make sure that foreign influence doesn't find its way into the doors of the White House? More gaslighting from here. Here, play this clip.
Department of
Justice. Volumes that you won't answer the question about transparency when the president is asking people to invest in his company and his products, and that foreigners are attending these events. I think transparency would be appropriate. Are you going to recommend any ethics guidelines to make sure that foreign influence does not find its way in through the doors of the White House?
How do you characterize foreigners, the illegal aliens that have flowed into our country? Is that who you're talking about? You don't want to talk about them. You don't want to talk about the crime that has gone rampant throughout this country and your state.
She's then asked by Senator Murray, so will you not allow the conduct by Todd Blanche and Emile Bove to tell prosecutors at the DOJ to go F the federal courts, or don't effing follow what the courts say, or F them? Because that seems to be unlawful if they're doing that. Do you not support that, or do you support that? Here, play this clip.
I just want you to confirm for this, you will not allow conduct like that at the DOJ. Yes or no?
I will always support and defend Emil Bove, and I will defend Todd Blanche. They are two of the finest people I know, and two
I
of
was
the
asking
ethical
about the
people
conduct.
I know.
Let me.
And then Congressmember Stanton asked Kerry Lake, are you going to admit that Trump lost the election? Play this clip.
Are you finally ready to admit you lost the 2022 Arizona election?
It saddens me that you are from Arizona and you're okay with
That's
the
a
way
yes or no question, Ms.
saddens
Lake.
me that you are from Arizona.
I guess the answer is no. Reclaiming my time.
The gentleman will suspend, will stop the clock. For all present, members are reminded to avoid engaging in personality toward the president and other members. Okay, and this is a member of the administration, so I would caution all to stay on the subjects and stay off of personalities, please. Gentlemen may continue.
Yes, and in this case, these are adjudicated lies. Courts of law have determined that these are lies. These are not me saying it. You didn't just lie to the press.
The courts are really awesome
You took
right
those
now.
lies to court.
And then I like this last clip right here of Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren saying, just explain to the American people what has changed in the last 6 months that has caused the Fed to forecast higher inflation right now. Watch what civil, normal, intelligent conversation looks like. Play this clip.
So, Chair Powell, the Fed released its updated economic projections last week, and I appreciate your summary, but I want to look at the trend lines here. The Fed's outlook on inflation, the labor market, and GDP growth have all gotten worse. Compared to your economic projections in December, the latest numbers show that the Fed is now projecting higher inflation from 2.5% in December now to 3.1%. Higher unemployment from 4.3% to 4.5%. Lower economic growth from 2.1% projected just 6 months ago to 1.4% that you're now projecting. Chair Powell, what has changed in the last 6 months that has caused the Fed to forecast substantially higher inflation, somewhat higher unemployment, and lower economic growth than you did in December?
So some of it is just taking signal from data reports that we've seen. Some of it is people working in the possible effects in the short term of tariffs. We have no view on the wisdom or the longer term effects of trade policy. It's not our job. And by the way, I should add, our forecasts are generally, and in this case, are very, very similar to what outside forecasters
I
are
understand that.
calling for.
I'm just using you as the gold standard here. I know it's consistent, but you mentioned tariffs as one of the things that has changed over the last 6 months. You know, Donald Trump has become president and the economy has headed down. Not only does the Fed data now show slower growth and higher prices this year, it sees slower growth and higher prices over the next 2 years as well. And the Fed sees no longer term boost to the economy or drop in inflation. In other words, no upside to Trump's chaotic tariff war or his other economic policies.
Well, there you have it, folks. Let me know what you think. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 5.5 million subscribers. Let's get to 6 million subscribers. 6.5 million subscribers. Okay, it's 6 million subscribers. Thank you for watching.
Kerry Lake, Pam Bondi, those two, they're dumpster fires, really. They really are. They're not restricted by the truth. Either one of them. They make up their own shit. They lie, and they do it, you know, with fervor. I mean, they just, when they tell a lie, they mean it. You know, it's like they tell it like it's the truth, you know. I can't imagine, I can't imagine how anybody can believe anything at this point, anything that comes out of the Trump administration. I mean, I don't see that as a plausible thing, not after all this time, okay? Not after what we know about Trump, not after a lot of things, okay? Their credibility's gone. Most people who, you know, watch these news things that happen, these hearings and stuff like that, the minute somebody from the Trump administration is being questioned and they answer a question, their first reaction is, better check this one out, you know, better look it up, better check the facts. And oftentimes, when they do, they're disappointed, but not surprised that what they just heard somebody testify under oath was a fucking lie, okay? Especially when it comes to Carrie Lake there in that goddamn election that she lost. She's still on it about that. I mean, she's taking Trump's lesson about lie till you die, okay? And she just doesn't have the gift to do this, I guess, you know, because even MAGA doesn't really listen to her anymore now either. So her credibility is gone. Her political career, as far as I can tell, is not, you know, is gone. So all she's got left are her lies. And even being questioned under oath in front of people, she's still going to lie. You know, because I think for some people in MAGA, there's good lies and then there's bad lies. Okay? Even though a lie is bad no matter what, they think that it's okay to lie to government agencies and stuff like that because, you know, because they're so corrupt. Why should we pleasure them with the truth? Okay? So it's okay to lie. And I think that's the general attitude, I think, of a lot of people in this country, not just politicians. I think people really are not happy with government, haven't been for a very, very long time, no matter what kind of president we've ever had. People learn to distrust the government, you know, way back. And now it's gotten so bad that the government is seen as a circus now. It's not only mistrusted, but they think it's ridiculous. We don't need it anymore, okay? They don't even understand when they say that what would happen if we got rid of government, okay? But because they've learned to distrust it, and for some people, that's all they ever knew. They never knew government when it could be trusted. So we have generations of people who have grown up in a country where they have been taught to mistrust the government by their parents and other people and what they hear on the TV and the news and all that, okay? They've been taught that the government is always wrong, all right? Think about being born after 9/11, okay? Think about, for you people that are, you know, my age or a little bit younger, think about how you would perceive America from 9/11 forward, okay? For a lot of Americans, it would seem like a very bleak country because they wouldn't believe that there were better times in this country. They couldn't fathom it, okay? Even though, you know, I've seen, you know, better times. You know, it was always a controversial time, but I've seen better times in this country. Compared to today, they certainly are better. But imagine, you know, being, you know, like 20 years or 25 years old or something, and your perception of America has been, you know, by, you know, how things occurred after 9/11. Because in my mind, things really went south after 9/11 in this country, okay? It really did. So, I feel bad for that generation of, you know, that's growing up, because to them, they would probably think those early days after 9/11 were probably better days, you know, and they wouldn't have any knowledge of, you know, how it was before that. And let me take one slice of that pie here for a second and just say, traveling by air was much, much better before 9/11. Okay, it wasn't perfect, but it seemed like it was a lot better. The airlines were friendlier. People were calmer on the planes. Okay, they didn't freak out every fucking time you turned around. Okay, the terminals, the airport terminals, were more under control. It just seemed like after 9/11, airline industry went, they just shit a log, and it's been disaster ever since. And there's enough YouTube videos to prove it. People have gotten to be to the point of like rabid animals now when they're in the airports. I mean, I don't know what the hell what comes over people. They just go to these terminals and they turn into Karens. They turn into lunatics. They turn into drunks. I mean, they go into these airplanes and God only knows. One of these passengers out of 100 passengers is going to flip out or something. I mean, Christ. I mean, you can't. I don't know. Anyway, that's one slice of what I'm talking about. Okay, airlines used to be much better to handle. I wouldn't fly anywhere if you paid me money to do it. I tell you, I wouldn't. Not from what I've seen. Pam Bondi, Elizabeth Warren. She's good at questioning people and stuff, and kudos on her. And of course, Jasmine. She brings an element of humor into her, sort of like a funny side of things, but it's true, okay? But she has a funny way of making her point, and I like the way she does it, because I think a lot of people today, when they listen to politicians, it's like being in church and listening to the priest on Sunday, okay? Politicians, you got to have a gift of gab. You got to be able to talk. Hakeem Jeffries, no, he doesn't. I'm sorry. He's got this cadence to his speech that is annoying as all merry hell. It's like worse than William Shatner when he's delivering a line on Star Trek, okay? This guy here, when he talks, it's so fucking robotic. It's silly, okay? And he's monotone, and he doesn't show any emotion or anything. I mean, he has absolutely zero charisma when it comes to speak. And I think as a politician, if you're trying to make an important point, you got to have it. I mean, you look back at some of the older presidents that we've had in this country, and every damn one of them, okay, had charisma, had the ability to get their message out, okay? We've had some politicians in the past that really could talk to the people. I mean, especially during the days of just radio, they had to be able to talk then, right, to convince people. But these days, a lot of these politicians, they seem unhinged in a lot of cases. Some of them seem like off the rails. I mean, what can I say? And some of them come off as downright insane. I mean, you listen to like Marjorie Taylor Greene, okay? You think a woman like that would have been in the leadership position, say, in the 1940s or something like that? Of course not. This country was a much saner place back then than it is today. People knew better about character, and they knew the value of it, and they knew that you can't trust people like her to be in that position. But the entire administration really is a joke. None of them deserve the positions that they've been handed by Trump. None of them. I feel like, there's something, there's been a lot missing since Trump won. And it was bad enough that Trump won the White House for a second time. He had to go and pick some of the worst people imaginable to fill in roles that are very important to the function of this country. People who have no fucking experience at all doing what they've been asked to do. If Trump asked me to run a department, I would say, are you fucking nuts? I know nothing about any of these departments to be able to run them. Okay? High school education? Really? spent one term in the fucking military, and that they would make me Secretary of Defense. Fuck you. Okay, that job is reserved for somebody who has experience in the military, who's probably been a general, for Christ's sake, in the military. That's the kind of person you want in the Department of Defense. Okay, someone who does have experience, has probably been through a couple of wars. Okay, those are the kinds of people you want. All right, but Pete Hegseth, a Fox News host on the weekends. You know, he spent a few years in the military, and now he's been handed, you know, a responsibility that not even Fox News could have prepared him for. Okay, this is ridiculous. I don't care what people say about him, and I don't care what he says about anybody else. Okay, he's a mistake. He's a mistake. And when that scandal broke out there earlier this year, you know, that internet scandal when he was in the chat room, okay, that should have finished him. It would have done it. Anybody else would have been in that position. It would have finished them. If it had been in a Democrat administration, and that Democrat, we'll just say Barack Obama, appointed Pete Hegseth, and he did that shit, hey, Republicans would have demanded that son of a bitch get fired. Okay? But no, because it's Trump, and Trump can't do any wrong. You know, these people like him don't have any morals or ethics, or, you know, or just be able to answer a question truthfully, even a yes or no question. They think everything is a trap. Well, if they feel like that, then it means they've done something wrong. If they come to these hearings and they feel like they can't answer truthfully anything because it might make me look bad, then maybe you're doing the wrong thing. Maybe you've been lying all this time. Maybe you've been doing wrong and you know it, but you won't admit it. Okay? That's what we're getting every time we see these people getting examined in these hearings, and we see these people getting, you know, irate and, you know, how dare you speak to me that way, and, you know, and they get all defensive. It's like, well, hey, if what you're doing is honest, above board, and not illegal, then you would have no problem answering these questions. Okay? Yes or no, or truthfully, or both. But because they put up such a fucking defense mechanism, you know, they build a wall between themselves and the hearing. Okay, the minute we as a people, the citizens, the regular citizens see that, we say they're lying. Right off, they're fucking lying because they won't answer the question. Like when they asked that one guy about, do you think, Joe Biden won the election in 2020? And the guy says, well, he was certified the winner. It's like, yeah, I answered yes, he is the president, but I'm saying it as a technicality. Really? He won by a fucking landslide, and you call that a technicality? Okay? It's these people who are afraid to say the fucking facts, because the facts mean more than their spin on it. Their spin on it comes across as spin, comes across as bullshit, because a lot of us have bullshit filters. You know, we know what we're hearing is not true. But if they think they can get around that, they're mistaken. Some people, yeah, you could convince folks out there that your bullshit is the fact, but not everybody. Not everybody. If you could, then there wouldn't be any opposition to Trump, would there? But because we have a lot of people in America who have their bullshit filter working very well, that's why we have an opposition against Trump. Okay, this is not a party battle, folks. Okay, this is not Democrats trying to get sour grapes going after Trump. No, none of that has anything to do with why we're opposing Trump. We oppose him on so many fucking levels, people. I mean, we could spend all day talking about every reason why we should not support that madman or his administration. Because if you can't see what we see, there is something wrong with you. There is. If you cannot see the trouble we see, there's something wrong with you. There really is. I don't know if it's some form of ADHD or you have a mental block of some kind, or your prefrontal cortex is not working, or whatever the hell matter could be, you have something wrong if you do not see the signs the rest of us are seeing here as troubling. Okay? Now, some of you people in MAGA did, and you turned against Trump. That's good. But look how much had to happen before you decided, yeah, he's not such a good man after all. A lot. Some of you people had to wait until you were personally affected by one of Trump's policies before you decided that he wasn't good for you, okay? But I still have the point that you guys supported him when he was talking racistly, okay? When he was talking about deporting people, you guys still supported this man, which means you may be aware that he's not on your side now, but you were okay with the fact that he was against certain segments of our population here, and you didn't have any trouble about him getting rid of people. So what does that say about you? I mean, there's something there still. There's a lot you need to work on about yourself. You know, I mean, we're happy that you understand, Trump isn't good, but it's more than just he's not good for you. He's not good for all of us. That's the part you haven't come to yet. You're just angry because if you're a farmer, you don't have as many workers as you did, and now you're losing your crops. Okay, now you're mad about, oh, he's not good for me. Well, yeah, he's not good for you, but he's also not good for America. That's the part you haven't realized yet. Even though you're standing against Trump, you still don't realize the scope of how bad of a president he is, or how bad of an administration this is. And whatever promise the rest of you are clinging to, that Trump is going to fulfill something that, he promised you when he campaigned, you're going to be waiting a long time. Okay? Some of you, I guess you voted for him maybe because you like the idea of deporting people out of this country. And if that's the case, then, well, you got your wish there, but some of you MAGA people got deported too. Okay? But I guess the other members of your clan don't care, because if you weren't white and you were MAGA and you got deported, it's like, okay, so what? That's kind of the way you're fucking rationalizing this, which shows a sign of a mental imbalance. Basically, there's something wrong with you when you have no empathy for other people. Okay, nobody would wish these things to happen on somebody else. But if you hate somebody because of the color of their skin so much that it just curls a hair in your nose when you see them, and you don't care if they're strapped to a wall and whipped to death, okay, then there's something missing in your soul. Okay, you're definitely a person with no conscience, no empathy. You're less than human, as far as I'm concerned. Okay, because anybody that was watching what was happening in Los Angeles, okay, over the last month or so, and saw what was happening there, it was a debacle there of ridiculousness that we should never have seen in this country. Okay, our own government doing these kind of things illegally. Okay, illegally. Let's be honest, it was illegal because due process was denied for all these people, and some of these folks snatched right out of the courthouses when they were ordered to be there because of the judge, and the judge was being denied, his job of doing what he was supposed to be there to do. I mean, hey, the shit goes around, but like I said, that was not right. None of it was right. And if it was, these people wouldn't be doing this with cloaks over their faces and out of uniform, okay? Even police officers, as bad at times as what they're doing, like, I can't remember that cop's name, the one that choked the guy on the ground with his knee. He did it with no cloak over his face, and he was in uniform, okay? So why is it that ICE feels like they can't show themselves or wear a uniform to do what they're doing? Doesn't that mean there's something nefarious about the whole affair, okay? That they don't feel comfortable about what they're doing. They just don't want to be targeted for retaliation. They don't want to be identified because, hey, they know people got cameras. They're on their phones. I mean, they're everywhere there's a picture taken. So they don't want to be identified. So that means they know they're doing wrong. They know they're doing wrong, okay? So let's go to a commercial break. We'll be right back.
I'm Alex Curtis. I'm a lobsterman in Maine, and this is me.
I'm Roxy Sugar, and this is me.
I'm Eric Hopkins. I'm an artist, and this is me.
This is me.
Me.
This is me.
This is me. At the end of the journey, the main thing is you, original.
Stephen Miller designed it. Donald Trump demanded it. Kristi Noem and Holman ordered you to do it. Illegal deportations, mass raids, rounding up people who are here legally, arresting citizens, family separations, snatching students off the street for tweeting, detention without hearings, shipping them to foreign prisons, deportations defying court orders. When government agents like you abuse your power, when you trample civil and constitutional rights, you can be held personally liable in civil court. You can lose everything, and Trump can't pardon you. That includes ICE, that includes CBP, contractors, DOJ, even the White House. Yep, every last Trump official pulling the strings. Even, well, especially the lawyers. If you think you're safe behind badges and titles, you're wrong. You do a hard, dangerous job. You're vital to our security. But what they have you doing now isn't law enforcement. It's just lawless, and you'll pay the price for following illegal orders.
Some people have a deep, abiding respect for the natural beauty that was once this country. And some people don't. People start pollution. People can stop it. Write for Pollution Booklet Box 1771, Radio City Station, New York.
Be a part of the entertainment value of a lifetime.
I loved it. It was the best performance I've seen in a lifetime.
I loved the show. I liked it very much. He's a very entertaining man. It's well worth the money.
Now appearing in Charlottetown, coming to Halifax November 6th to the 18th, and St. John November 20th through the 26th.
Everybody. Okay, so I got this little article here to read from Daily Dose of Democracy. And it says, one of the big videos of the day is Trump and Hegseth throwing humiliating tantrums at NATO summit. Two peas in a pod. Two clowns go to a NATO summit, and what do you expect, right? Donald Trump and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth spent most of their NATO summit press conference throwing embarrassing tantrums at the American press for daring to suggest that the illegal and unprovoked bombings of Iran's nuclear facilities didn't actually, quote, completely obliterate, unquote, but only, quote, severely damaged, unquote, the facilities. Even more bizarre is their insistence that these reports, which again came from their own intelligence agencies, is somehow a personal affront to the tender and vulnerable feelings of our B-2 bomber pilots who Trump claimed personally called him to do the "Sir, Sir, I'm crying" routine about how upset they were that the media was demeaning their beautiful, perfect mission that Hegseth would describe this morning as the most, quote, complex and secretive military operation in history, unquote. Why did he say secretive? Like I didn't tell anybody we were coming. Sorry, D-Day. Guess the largest amphibious invasion in human history doesn't cut it anymore. It is grotesque and humiliating to watch this absolute clown show debacle play out on the world stage. Trump and his liquored up today Pete Hegseth are attempting to yell and berate their way into forcing a lie that everyone knows is a lie, only for it to try to become reality. Yeah, it's funny because, see, they after the bombing, the next day, I think, they were going around on a victory tour. They were hitting Fox News and going around, and Trump's talking to the press saying it was a great strike. We stopped them from making any nukes or whatever, you know, even though they weren't. They were going around trying to make this as the biggest fucking success since D-Day, you know, okay? And then it comes out that, oh, by the way, you know, our satellite images are showing that, you know, the facility was only mildly damaged, okay? Not destroyed in the manner in which you suggest or which Pete Hegseth suggests. You guys aren't being truthful here. You're taking credit for something you didn't do. Okay? And at the end of the day, like I said, what does it matter? Let's just say, for the sake of this discussion here, that Iran was making nukes, okay, in those areas that they bombed, okay? And they were bombed, and now those facilities are destroyed. Do you realize that they could easily call up and say, hey, Putin, can you send us some ICBMs? Or, hey, China, can you send us some missiles, you know, tactical nukes or something like that? They have allies that have nukes. They don't really need to make them, which is probably why they haven't been trying to make them, is because they don't have to. Because they've got allies who would happily push the button for them to Hey, you want to attack the United States? Hey, we'll do it. We'll give you the goddamn missile if you want it. Okay? They don't need to make their own missiles in order to hit targets, military bases, and all that shit. Okay? They don't need them. They don't have to make them. I mean, yeah, they got a lot of weapons as it is. Okay? But if they want the big boys, okay, they can always get them from other countries that have them. I'm sure Russia would be happy to get rid of the fucking stockpiles of some of the older stuff that they got. You know, because they're not taking very good care of their fucking nukes, from what I've read about them, especially during this Ukraine conflict here. I mean, some of the Russian silo. I mean, even some of the people are doubting whether some of these things could even launch at this point, because they've been tearing apart their own military since the fall of the Soviet Union. They've been selling off nuclear cores, you know, tearing apart submarines, scrapping them all. You know, they've been tearing apart their fucking navy like you wouldn't believe. And you saw the military that they had when they went into Ukraine. I mean, they were using outdated equipment. The soldiers weren't even fed. They had raggedy looking clothes, military uniforms. They didn't have enough soldiers. They had to recruit criminals out of prison to fill in the gaps. Okay? So yeah, they might have some nukes that still work that they would happily send to Iran, but like I said, they don't need to make the nukes. Okay? And at the same time, they're also pretty good at doing terrorist hits. So if they want to actually do some damage in the United States, you know, I don't care what Trump says about we shut the borders off. There ain't no fucking way you can stop anybody who's determined to come into this country to get into this country if they want to. They're probably already here, for all we know. Okay? But the thing of it is that these people can do damage on the inside by terrorist actions. And, you know, we're not safe. This bombing was not the be-all and end-all of what this war was about. They're still fighting, Israel and Iran. That ain't going to be over. It's an eye for an eye. It won't stop until one side is completely obliterated. Okay, which side do you think that's going to be? I'm not putting my money on it being Iran. Okay, they got too many powerful allies. Okay, and if you think that the United States, you know, was going to help eradicate Iran, Russia, China all at the same time just to protect Israel, you're fucking crazy. All right. Let's see. The Senate GOP dealt a major blow on mega bill healthcare plans. What else is new, right? The GOP's efforts to pay for Trump's gargantuan, grotesquely evil tax cut bill by gutting Medicaid were dealt a shocking blow on Thursday morning as that would be this morning, the Senate parliamentarians struck down major pieces of Medicaid policy, including a politically explosive plan to hold down Medicaid costs by cracking down on a state provider tax, a provision that is expected to have a 9-figure impact on the bill. Senator Thune and the rest of his vampiric coven of ghouls are walking a tightrope in their efforts to appease both the psychotic extremists in the House Freedom Caucus and the worrywart swing state Republicans who know they'll have to get a real job if this absolute monstrosity passes in its current form. And that just got a whole lot harder. To make matters worse, Thune is facing a full revolt from multiple senators who are threatening they won't vote to open floor debate on the mega bill without more clarity on Medicaid changes, and others like Susan Collins of Maine are displeased with the paltry $15 billion rural hospital aid fund that the Finance Committee proposed to try and stop the immediate shuttering of rural America's medical facilities with the end of Medicaid funding. This idea, in and of itself, was beautifully roasted by Senator Tammy Duckworth, who said that, quote, "It's like the person setting the fire saying, we need a fire department when you're the one that set the fire to begin with. Americans did not vote for the "we're all going to die anyway" party, but that's what they're getting from Donald Trump and his Republican allies, unquote. Here's hoping against hope that this time the GOP has flown too close to hell and won't be able to climb their way out. I wouldn't bank on that. You know, this bullshit, this talk about Medicare and all that, and cutting that. I mean, you know, as if the healthcare industry in this country wasn't bad enough. The Republicans, who always seem to be at the root of the reason why we're stuck with such a dismal fucking healthcare system, aren't happy still that we even have a system. You know, they want us to be completely dependent on the system that is provided by the private sector, okay, the businesses out there. And, you know, we've already seen how that works. Okay, it's not that great. But how other countries have a better system than ours has always been a stain on American society, because we always brag about we can do better than other people. But that's the one thing that's always come up that we can't do better at, and other countries have. Now, for other people, for Republicans to come out and say, "Oh, we got the best," you know, you're full of shit. Okay? We don't. Canada's got better than we do. And if you're going to say, well, they got lines, we got lines here too. Okay? You know why we got lines? Because there's not enough doctors on either side of the fucking border to accommodate the population. That's the reason why we have lines. Okay? And a lot of these Medicaid cuts are going to cut doctors as well. So you think you're mad about lines now? An anti-gun violence trailblazer launches a run for Attorney General. Karen McDonald for Attorney General. Karen McDonald has spent her career working to keep our families safe and put an end to the scourge of gun violence and mass shootings. She made history as the first prosecutor to successfully hold the parents of the school shooter accountable for failing to safely secure their guns and acting indifferently to signs of their son's deteriorating mental health, which led to the tragic deaths of our 4 students in Oxford, Michigan. Now she's going to take her mission to the Attorney General's office in a vital swing state where she's vowed to stand up to Trump and use her office to resist his tyrannical overreach from Washington. Well, that's hopeful. But with Trump back in the, you know, whatever, you know, just you know, the opposition against her is going to be stiff, because, you know, obviously they were pissed when that happened about the parents being held responsible for their kid doing what he did. I can't remember the fucking name of the people, but this happened a while back. But it's a good incentive for people to have more responsibility if you got guns, okay? If you're raising a kid and he takes one of your guns, goes to school and shoots somebody with it, okay? Yeah, you as a parent are responsible for that kid. By definition, as a parent, that's what that means. You are responsible for the kid until he or she turns 18 and they're on their own, okay? So, if this happens before they're 18 and they're on their own, it still makes you responsible. So, whether you like it or not, if your kid murders somebody, the parents are going to be called into question here. Look, it's no different if a parent is abusing a kid and the state comes in to take that kid away from you, right? Because you're not taking care of that kid. You're not being responsible with that kid. You are destroying. Okay? So, if it works that way, it should work the other way. Okay? So, if you're a parent and you let that kid access to your gun, and the gun he ends up in his or her hands and somebody gets killed with it, you got to take responsibility for it. You're the parent. All right? That made perfect sense. Now, because these were gun right nuts, you know, they were willing to throw their kid under the bus just to protect their right to have a gun. That's where the bizarreness came in on that fucking case, okay? That goes to show you just how twisted these people are in MAGA. Okay, or, you know, we already know that much. Okay, but yeah, I agree. There has to be responsibility, accountability. You can't just throw the kid away in behind bars and the parents get away scot-free here. You know, because if they got another kid and the same thing happens again, you're going to just throw that kid away too and not punish the parents? Of course you got to do something. The guardians have to take the punishment too. I don't know what that punishment should be, whether they should serve time or whether they got a, you know, a civil lawsuit made against them for, you know, not being, you know, something has to happen to these people. Okay? You got to incentivize the necessity of being responsible. So if you got a gun and you got children in the house, lock the motherfucker up. I was at the Army surplus store here, I don't know, a couple, 2-3 days ago, I guess. It got great big, tall, looks like a locker, it looks like a safe. It's for rifles and guns, I guess. Got an electronic lock on the front of it, okay, for a passcode. They had that, they had combination locks, they had all kinds of stuff. Pretty solid thing, it weighs a lot, okay. Now, I understand they're expensive, but at the same time, ain't it worth it? So that way your guns don't fall into the wrong hands, you know, think about it. A shocking report from a whistleblower alleges that Trump's nominee for a vacant federal appeals court seat strategized with other DOJ officials about how to lie to the courts about obeying their rulings, and even said they should tell the courts to fuck off. I think you probably saw that in one of the clips here. These high-level governmental personnel knowingly and willfully defied court orders, directed their subordinate attorneys to make misrepresentations to courts, and engaged in a scheme to withhold relevant information from the court to advance the administration's priority of deporting non-citizens. The whistleblower had wrote. Erez Ruveni, who was fired after admitting to a judge that the Trump administration had mistakenly deported Kilmer Abrego Garcia del Salvador. Anyone who has observed the grim saga of the Trump administration's frantic efforts to skirt the law and deport as many migrants as quickly and cruelly knows that these allegations definitely add up. The idea that this lawless zealot could be on an appeals court is even more terrifying. Yeah, courts don't mean anything to Trump. I think we all know that by now, okay? In the whole time that Joe Biden was president, Trump was at war with the courts, and he was doing pretty good against them. Okay, even with the dingbacks he had as lawyers, okay, he was doing pretty good holding his own against the courts because he doesn't respect them, and the courts were too afraid to fucking come down hard on him, which I never understood. You know, it's like, well, he's not president anymore, but because he was a president, they were afraid to touch him. They were afraid to do anything. Okay? It's like, well, so what? He used to be a president. We have a president who would defend the courts. They should not have been afraid of Trump. But because they were, a lot of the justice got thrown out the window in that time. And now here he is, back in the White House again. You see, he's been rewarded for sticking out the fight. Now he's being given all the powers he needs, you know, to tear the country apart, okay? And he's telling the courts, you know, we're basically thumbing his nose up at it, which gives the impression to everybody that works with Trump that the courts don't mean shit, and that they're going around saying, oh, tell the courts to go fuck off, you know, because they know that's, you know, the court can't fight back. They can't enforce their rulings on Trump because Trump ignores them. Okay? You can't have a court system if you don't have some measure of fucking weight to your rulings. When somebody defies your rulings, like if I had a court appearance scheduled and I skipped it, they'd come after me with the cops. You were supposed to be in court today. You know? Somehow, you know, they don't feel like they could do that with Trump, I guess. I don't know. That it would start a war or something with the courts versus the government. I don't know. But the point is that, you know, we had a system in place in order to, for the courts to do what they're supposed to do to maintain civility. You know, a process that they backed up, like due process. Okay, they had that system all protected here. And we're seeing now that for some, it's optional. That because the process is there doesn't necessarily mean that you have to obey it or follow it if you have money and power and all the clout you need to be able to tie up the courts for decades, you know, with appeal after appeal after appeal till the fucking cows come home. And then if you've paid off some judges, especially if you got some appointed to the Supreme Court, you're almost guaranteed to get away with it. Okay, so there's no imperative here on anybody's part in the Trump administration to listen to the fucking courts. So we're seeing that justice really isn't as strong as we hoped it would be. We're seeing all the flaws in the system now. Okay, if there's one thing that Trump has done for us as citizens is he's shown us the cracks in the system. And I think it's really incumbent on us to demand that those cracks get sealed. Okay, that there needs to be something in the place where these doors aren't available to people with power and wealth and money. You know what I'm saying? We got to do something about that, because hey, it's bad enough that they're bribing our congressmen and our senators, these people, but to defy the courts and get away with it. I mean, what the hell reason do they have to say that they're even American citizens? I mean, to be an American citizen means you have to agree with the laws of the land. But if you're going to come and live in this country and you're just going to thumb your nose up at it because it doesn't appeal to you, how can you stay here? Okay, you should be deported because you're a criminal. Just by denying courts and stuff like that, you're a criminal. Okay, you are a fucking criminal. And that's what we've been saying all along about Trump, is he is a criminal. He shouldn't even be president. Okay? He can't be president if he's a criminal, and he is a criminal. He started a fucking riot. He raped a woman. He wouldn't pay his taxes. He was cheating on that. The list goes on. Okay, a lot of that stuff is, you know, hasn't been rectified yet because now he's president and he's cleaned the slate pretty much, I guess. But this is the problem that we have here. So anyway, that's it for today. I hope everybody has a great rest of the week. So subscribe, comment, share, keep your ears open for any health-related issues, and be available to your neighbors and your family and friends or something like that if anything goes wrong. We got to be a community. We have to stick together through hard, tough times. They are coming. And I'll talk to you guys later. Take care.